Welcome to Higher Heights Podcast, a V&P media production. Your hosts, Prophetess Nichole Jackson and Minister Karon are ready to take you on higher heights. And now, your hosts, Prophetess Nichole and Minister Karon.
Grace and peace. Welcome to Higher Heights, where the vision is to inspire and empower our listeners to live life at its full potential. And our mission is to provide listeners biblical principles and insight through thoughtful dialogue and counsel that will empower them to navigate their day-to-day life. I am your host, Prophetess Nichole M. Jackson, and
I am Prophet Karon Yarborough. And together, we are Higher Heights.
Higher Heights.
Hey, y'all. How y'all doing? I hope everybody is well and you all are getting through this pandemic well with no issues or no problems. Prophetess Nichole, how are you doing?
I am doing well, surviving, maintaining, keeping my sanity in the midst of all that's going on, because there is so much going on. As if a pandemic wasn't enough, we had to go and start a revolution. And I'm okay with
know. That's right. Why don't you give us a little bit about the background about what our topic is today? Our show is going to be about the national crises and police brutality and racism in America. You want to share with us just a little bit about the backdrop, about why we're talking about this today?
Definitely, Prophetess. One of the things that came to my attention after the shooting death of Aubrey is that there is still so much underlying hatred within our community. The fact that a man was gunned down after jogging because he simply looked into a house. And it wasn't necessarily because he was a trespasser, but it was because of the color of his skin. And that our country has had, in my opinion, a long wrestling with equality when it comes to people of color. And so I believe that at the helm of the murder of George Floyd, it really pushed to the forefront the much needed attention that there is a problem.
Right.
And ironically, I don't think that we would have paid attention to it if we didn't have this opportunity to take a time out because of the pandemic. I believe that with everybody being home, everybody kind of being in a slower pace of life, it really caused introspect. And in my opinion, I think I said it before, a revolution, a reformation of how we have functioned as a society.
I agree with you. There's so much that's going on. And I believe that had it not been for the exposure of how George Floyd was murdered, I believe that a lot of stuff would have still been under the helm of discrepancy, kept in secret. No exposure would have been done to it. It would have come out in the news eventually, but it would have never come out the way that it did. And so because the faces of the police officers were exposed, the cameras that people were recording were so vivid that you could see explicitly that this gentleman who had his knee in George Floyd's neck, suffocating, hearing him plead for his life. I don't believe that it would have gone the way that it did. I think his death would have gone uncovered as well. I really do. And because the way it was done, and because the people who backed him, his friends, especially the pro basketball player, I can't recall his name at the very moment, but because he set such a movement in place, I think that it became very profound at this time that we have to do something. We have to stand together in a spirit of unity and understand that it's not going to end unless we do something about it and make our voices heard.
Yeah. I was going to ask the question, do you think that America is in denial, that America is finally coming to a place of recognizing racism as a real national crisis, not this one thing that's happening to a particular set of people, but are they really starting to grasp that this is a real national crisis?
I to be honest with you, I don't believe that they just think that it's a national, but I believe now they realize it's a worldwide issue.
Okay.
You find people in different places of the world actually coming together in a bond of love and understanding, and knowing that it's not just whites that are actually coming together with us, but there are other people of different cultures and and ethnicities that are joining forces with us to say what you're doing is not right.
Right.
It is not correct. That is not how you treat human beings. Forget about the color. It's not how you treat another human being. And so with you have people coming from Africa joining in protest. You have people that are coming together in Europe that's coming together. You have people that are coming together in places of Australia. It's a whole worldwide, just like the COVID was pandemic worldwide. These protests are now becoming worldwide because they too see on national TV through CNN that this thing here has gone way overboard. It's not enough that we have endured as a Black people for 400 years plus. And I say plus because they can only go back to 400 years, but I believe it's been more than 400.
Yeah.
And they talk about, we've been oppressed for over 400 years. Yes, we have been oppressed for over 400 years. I know that there have been other cultures like the Nazis, the Germans that have been, dealing with, Hitler. But beyond him, we were still dealing with things, you know what I'm saying? And when people say all Black lives matter, that's offensive. Why? Because I don't see the Caucasians being hung by a tree. I don't see Asians being hung by, how about you? I don't see their brutalities in the street just because of the color of their skin or their race or their culture. I don't see that. What I do see in the history books, in national history, the people of color have been the ones that have been charged with, crimes that are so less. Like one person got 5 years. He was Caucasian for murdering someone. He got 5 years. But a Black man for the same reason got 25 years to life. 25 years to life. Where is the justice served in this particular case? When we go back to different books and readings and things of that sort, we talk about, there's supposed to be equality. I don't see that we've ever had equality. I really don't. Even today, I don't see how we're still having equality. Yes, we can get away with some things that other people, may have not gotten away with. But at the same time, at the hem of it all, we have been oppressed. We have been murdered. We have been brutally beat. We have been tortured, tormented. I actually looked at something on Netflix about Emmett Till. And how he was murdered as a child, 14 years old. It was just amazing how these young men killed this young boy, right? And got away with it. And then afterwards, they confessed that they did it because they knew that they couldn't go back and do double jeopardy. It would be against the law. But they knew the evidence was there. And Emmett Till's death was never justified. It never was. His mother was on the forefront of making sure that the people saw how they mutilated her son. And they tried to brush it under the rug. They tried to push it under the rug as if nothing had happened. Oh, it was just another senseless death. And we wasn't going to show the community his face, his body, how badly it was mutilated. And she was like, oh no, we're not going to just put my baby in a box and nobody sees what has been done to him. It caused an outrage, not only with the Black community, but also with some of those that were Caucasian. Now, how they did this, the judge, it went all the way to the Supreme Court. and it still did not offer them the justice that was needed and that was warranted for the mutilation of that child.
Right. It's amazing how the judicial system is swayed towards continuously oppressing a certain people. I find it peculiar that though it is police brutality that really brings racism to the forefront in this particular hour, it is still the fact that America is a system it's a whole system that has been created to oppress a minority of people. It was something that you said when you were talking about the death of Emmett Till and how it took so long, or all the different stages of justice and the fact that justice would never happen. You know, in the case of Ahmaud Arbery, he had been murdered months before there was an actual charge against his murderers.
Wow. What does that say?
He was, I believe he was murdered in February. He was gunned down in February, but it wasn't until the video of his murder was leaked in May that there was an outcry for justice.
Yeah.
And I believe because people are now able to record these injustices, like I think of Philando Castile, who was murdered in his car.
Yes.
You know, he had a license to carry a gun. He was doing nothing. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even driving. But it's because these things are now being recorded that we get to see, just like Emmett Till's mom, see the atrocity that has been launched against our people, but in particular, our African American males. And so I think this is where for us it becomes personal, because both you and I have sons.
Yes, definitely.
You know, and so then the question becomes, well, what makes this person so different? Because Trayvon Martin had a hoodie on, he was suspicious, you know,
right.
Because Ahmaud Arbery was jogging and he looked into a house, he was suspicious. Because George Floyd had possibly done something with, I think, a counterfeit bill or something to that nature.
Forgery. They were trying to say he was forging. Yeah.
Then the police then becomes, or whomever is present, then becomes judge, jury, and executioner. There's a problem with that.
Exactly.
There's a problem with that.
Right. I actually, you know, I actually find that some of the heinous ways that they are killing our Black men is just horrific. I pray for my son, or I pray for Black men in my family, as well as other people daily, that God will place a hedge of protection around them and let no hurt, harm, or danger come upon them, and give them wisdom. I saw recently on Facebook where there was a Black police officer just driving his car, and he was pulled over. The white officer pulled him over and said, "So why did you choose to go this route instead of going that route? Where are you going?" And so he was like, "Well, I can drive wherever I want to go." He was like, "Do you have any guns or weapons?" So he becomes irate because of the way he's responding. He says, "Sir, I'm not going to say anything." Now, mind you, he didn't say that he was a police officer from the start, right? But he's waiting to see how this is going to go down. So he says to him, "I have a weapon. Yes, I have a weapon, and I do have a knife." And he says, "Well, where is it?" He says that the knife is above my head and the gun is on my hip. I am an officer, right? He says, "Well, let me see. I want to see your gun." He says, "No, sir, I'm not reaching for my gun." He says, "I need for you to, first of all, put your body cam on. If I don't see that red light, that means that your body cam is not on. I need to see your body cam turn on, and I need to know what your badge number and your name is before I do anything." He says, "But I will say that I am an officer of the law, just like you are, and I need to find out why you're pulling me over." He never gave him a reason why he was pulling him over.
Right.
And then eventually he had to let him go because he acknowledged the fact that, "Oh, you're a police officer too, and you already know what needs to happen before I can say anything or give you a reason why I'm